So I've had an influx of brand new clients, a lot of them dealing with resource guarding and reactivity as well as loose lead walking. That's sort of been the main trend over the last few weeks, so I'm making a video for all of you guys. So I'm going to break this down into 5 specific steps about how to teach your dog to walk loosely on lead and how to get them comfortable on lead. So if your dog is absolutely fine with a lead, you can just skip straight ahead to step 3. If your dog starts showing stress signals when you pick up the lead, or they freak out when you put the lead on them, then step 1 and 2 will be for you. So the very first thing I would start doing, depending on how fearful, reactive your dog is to the lead and how stressed they are, I would very, very simply go over to the lead, pick it up, yes, and then mark and reward them. If they do come to investigate the lead, so they just come over, they start smelling it or interacting with it, yes, good. I would add a bit more excitement into that and tell them that they're doing a really good job, maybe offer multiple rewards. You can just do this randomly throughout the day, and all we're simply trying to do is teach them lead is good, rather than lead being scary. Well, I know in the US and the UK, for example, a lot of dogs very, very simply will see a lead, they're like, I get to go for a walk, and they get super excited. Whereas here in Cambodia, a lot of dogs get stressed when they see the lead, and walks are way more stressful in general, and we're dealing with a very, very different type of dog. So that would be the step 1 that I start doing. Step 2, Oreo's not got a collar on, but if they wear a collar or harness, whatever you want to use, if you use a slip lead, I would go over, once they're comfortable with it, so they're not scared and they're feeling good, go over, clip it on, yes. Good. And then reward. And then just take it straight off. We don't want to be adding any pressure or yanking them around. It's very, very simply, oh, cool, lead goes on. Once the lead's on, yes, we mark and reward. And again, similar to the first one, I would just keep doing that. If you give them enough time with the first step, what will happen is you'll pick up the lead, they'll come over because they think it's a good thing, and then you add in the second stage of clip. Yes. And reward. I would always reward after the clip is on, rather than before it, just so the dog knows that they hear the sound of the clip. And then you say yes, and then they get a reward. This will also help when your dog is off lead. They will come and you use recall, for example. They'll come over, they'll be like, oh cool, the lead is great, rather than being a punishing thing. And we start to have that positive association. Okay, so now the third step, this is where we're going to start getting into a little bit more of the technical side of things. So there is multiple ways we can do this, but because of the dogs I'm specifically worked with recently, a lot of them, the second you apply a little bit of pressure and you make the lead tight, their opposition reflex kicks in and they start flailing around everywhere. Oh, cramping. So we are going to do a very, very, very light bit of leash pressure, and I'll show you exactly how that works. Okay, Oreo, come here. Good boy. So, actually for this, I'll do it on a harness. This is more effective, generally speaking, on a collar or something like a slip lead like this, but you can use whatever tool you specifically want. So, very, very simply, when the lead is tight, the dog feels pressure on whatever tool they're using. Now, if a dog is like a street dog or a Khmer dog, a lot of the time this feeling sends them almost straight into a panic. So what we want to do is we want to keep the lead a little bit tight, but not too much pressure to make them freak out. And rather than, if you're struggling with loose lead walking as well, what generally happens is the dog pulls, and that sensation teaches the dog that that means I can go forward. What we want this to mean is that they come back to us, okay? So like Oreo's there standing, I'm going to pull the lead. Yes, good boy. So the second he comes towards me, so lead's tight, yes. We drop the pressure and then we mark and reward. So like pressure, 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 yes. Oreo is used to this, so it's not going to be quite this smooth. But I would very, very lightly just pull, yes. And then mark and release. If your dog starts flailing or your puppy starts flailing, for example, either put on too much pressure or they're just very, very sensitive to that. If they do start backing up and flailing and trying to go the opposite direction, it's really important, unless it's emergency, that you don't go towards them and drop that pressure. We really, really want them to come to us so that that teaches them that's how they turn off the pressure. The reason we are doing this is so when you're outside and if you have to start dealing with street dogs, for example, and your dog becomes all very, very excited, you have rehearsed it enough so the dog knows when the lead is tight, I come back to my owner. Okay, so I may try and find a different video for that to sort of show you. I did do it with a client recently, so I'll pop that in here. Okay, so now we are on to step 4, which is going to be the start of the actual loose lead walking exercise. Okay, so for this, I did want to show you what it would look like. So I used a different dog for the situation. Very first thing we do is get your dog into one specific side and a sit position. After that, we start walking and then we keep rewarding them while they stay in position. And then we stop, sit, spin them around, and then do the same thing again. This is very, very much a simple exercise. So watch again, it's sit, lure them in with food, bring them around, keep rewarding while they are behind you. And then again, you stop, sit, spin them around. You will need to keep your hand closer to their head when you're doing the round bit, because that's sort of the hardest thing for the dog to understand. But it's also really important you reward while you walk and while you're doing this. So that's an example of how it should look, and remember to praise your dog afterwards. And now we'll jump back to Oreo and you guys can see what it's like with him. So for this, we're going to use treats in the same side they are on and lead in the other hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk, lure him with swings. Oreo, good boy. We're going to get him into a sit. Good. So very, very short distance to start, and we're using this way. Least pressure, bring him back in, bringing them to a sit. Good. And then once they're sitting, we're going to bring them around. Let's go. Yeah. Good. Good boy. So it's really important. So you see the way he's a little bit distracted and he keeps moving in front of me. We never want to reward the dog for going in front. We want to specifically try and reward them for being behind us to the side. So I'm going to try this again. All right, let's go. See? Good. All right, let's go. See? Yes. So that time I slowed it down so he can focus a little bit more rather than building up that momentum and going forwards. So it's just that very, very simple exercise, and I'm going to show you once more, but I'm going to use a different type of lead for this. Let's go. Good. And we're going to make them sit. Good boy. Okay, let's go. Good boy. Good. Yes. So while we're doing this as well, we want to be rewarding while we're moving. So, all right, I see. Good. Okay, let's go. All right, I see. Good. So for that, we are rewarding while we're moving and also trying to reward him whenever he specifically looks at us. You at the start, you may be taking a few steps, and the second they go in front, you can either stop, bring them back in and try again, or you can simply just 180. So for example, he's in front, go. Good. Good. Let's go.
Good boy. Let's go. Good job, buddy. Good job. Are you some Aussie?
Good job. So hopefully that makes sense in how to do that. So by your side, you walk, you reward them specifically right behind you. So the reason we hold our treat in this hand rather than this hand, for example, if depending on their side, but the reason we do that is so that they don't start coming around in front. So if he's on this side and I try and reward him, see, he moves around in front, whereas if I stick it on this side, he will be behind me. And the more we reward in that position, the more he will stay in that position. We are also rewarding for eye contact to keep them sort of engaged with us. But I think that's a really, really nice, simple way to get started. Don't try and do this outside or like in a field or in a high distraction environment. Start this inside your house. You don't even need to use a lead for this, to be honest. But I would recommend getting them comfortable on the lead to do this. God, it is hot. So yeah, the idea behind this is teaching your dog to walk in position. This is where you walk. This is how we can move forward. So because a lot of you guys have got reactive and fearful dogs, from my experience, it is way, way easier and better to manage them when they're behind you or by your side. They pay way more attention to what's going on, and it can give you way more control in managing the situation. And it gives you way more room for them to be able to make mistakes, and you don't need to worry as much. So that is a brief introduction into loose lead walking, and you can start doing that before we have our sessions together. And over time, you pretty much just keep extending the distance. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or message me, and I'll get back to you on that. Or if you want feedback as well, just give me a shout.